Hey guys, the inspiration for this episode came during my seminar on alcohol-free drinks with a client in Freiburg, and I thought, let's talk about the big brands acquiring or at least getting some stakes in small startups in the alcohol-free drinks industry. And we recently talked about LVMH, who acquired a major stake, or actually it's a minor stake, in French Bloom, the big brand, and there is so many more. And the question is, why are they doing that? And what is their driver behind? What does this mean for marketing? What does this mean for both brands? And we will dive deeper into this episode. And for those of you who are watching, you might recognize that this is a pro studio. And this is because my friend Johannes invited me to his studio near Lake Constance. Looks pretty good, doesn't it? I guess I will come back in the future for maybe 2 or 3 episodes more. Right now, enjoy the episode, have fun with alcohol-free spirits and the major acquisitions in the industry. Welcome to the Pinot and Pixel podcast episode number 201. It's Wednesday, and today we are going to talk about the major acquisitions in the wine and drinks industry in recent months, recent years, especially when it comes to alcohol-free spirits. Non-alcoholic drinks are becoming more important and are a big part of the industry even right now. They have an annual expected growth rate of 9.3%. growing up to $260 billion over the next 10 years. Trends like Sober October, Dry January, or zebra striping are happening in bars and restaurants, and especially spirits offer a very big range of possibilities when it comes to fancy drinks. And the advantage of spirits companies is that they are mostly focused on-premise, where you can really just come over and order your drink, while sitting at home means either you have to buy a ready-to-drink, so a cocktail in a can, or you're sitting there with your alcohol-free wine. But, I mean, seriously, who wants to mix his or her own cocktail at home, especially when you haven't educated yourself on that stuff? So the focus for alcohol-free spirits, for cocktails, is on-premise, in bars and in restaurants. The problem of on-premise is that restaurants have been painting a picture of alcohol-free cocktails of being just a mix of juices. So they really struggle in expressing that they have high-quality alcohol-free cocktails that can really suit as a perfect alternative for normal cocktails. And I recently visited a restaurant at Lake Constance, and they had a huge list of alcohol-free cocktails, and this list said this is premium. And when the cocktail arrived, it even looked like a premium product. It was served in a very specific glass that really reminds you of high quality, of a fancy drink. It even looked like, you're having your Caribbean experience with your, a swimming pool, I guess I was having. Maybe some people don't like swimming pool, but I'm a big fan of it, especially with the color. And it was an alcohol-free cocktail that was really tasty, and where I, as a person, am able to drink maybe 3, 4, 5 drinks in one night, while it seems to be very difficult, especially for me, to have more than 2 glasses of an alcohol-free wine during one night. Can you imagine sitting with 3 or 4 friends ordering 4 or 5 bottles of alcohol-free wine in a bar? I couldn't. It's doesn't sound correct to me. And talking about the success of alcohol-free cocktails, or at least spirits brands, especially on-premise, big brands can help with that. On the one hand, it's easier for them to get access to the markets, to the bars, to the restaurants, because usually they are already present when we talk about Diageo, LVMH, Constellation. And in addition, they don't care if they have one or more products in their portfolio, because they can sit next to each other on the shelf without working against each other. People just don't care if the company belongs to Diageo or not. They just know, they are a fan of Seedlip, they're a fan of Cedars, they're a fan of Jukes, and they just want to have their favorite drink. And in addition, it's easier for a brand like French Bloom to build a broader audience compared to a big brand like Diageo, because, I would guess that only few people know that their favorite drink belongs to Diageo or LVMH or Constellation brands. So it's not all about transparency, especially when it comes to the smaller but high quality brands. Let's start with highlighting some of the major acquisitions over the last 5 to 6 years, especially when it comes to alcohol-free spirits. Pernod Ricard was one of the first companies that started to move into the alcohol-free spirits market, acquiring Cedars in 2018. So already 6 years ago, Pernod Ricard decided the alcohol-free market is a big thing. It will grow over the next years. And just to give you some numbers, in the last 4 years, from 2020 to 2024, they had a growth rate of 10%. And for the next 9 years, until 2033, they have an expected annual growth rate of 9.3%. I'll put the link in the show notes. It's data from IWSR, focused on an article at mynaturaloriginals.com, where they play around with all those numbers. And just to give you a feeling, the current market is valued at 104 billion, and it's expected to grow up to 271 billion. It's a huge opportunity for big brands, especially when it comes to the spirits industry. So Pernod was one of the first, acquiring Cedars in 2018, having the exclusive distribution rights for the UK and later on for Europe and the worldwide market. Then Diageo acquired Seedlip. Seedlip was the first company that ever issued alcohol-free spirits to the market, one of the pioneers, I would say, and they were acquired by Diageo, a major shareholding in 2019 in August. Later on, Constellation Brands in 2023 made an investment in the brand Toast, or Toast, I don't know how to pronounce it correctly, but I guess it's Toast, offering alcohol-free drinks, claiming being a flavor-forward and alcohol-free sparkling beverage brand that has never had any alcohol. The next one we talked about is the partnership of Bicard Simon, the big champagne house, with the brand Jukes of Matthew Jukes from the UK, who offers ready-to-drinks in cans. And I tasted them, and they were one of my favorites so far, especially when it comes to RTD. And then the big players, once again, first move in July, you heard it on that podcast, Pernod Ricard acquired a minority stake in Lewis Hamilton's non-alcoholic agave brand. Diageo bought the Ritual Zero Proof brand, and the latest news were LVMH, who acquired a minor stake in the alcohol-free wine brand French Bloom. This is not focused on alcohol-free spirits, but at least it shows the interest of the big brands, of the big players in premium products. In that case, the champagne lookalike of French Bloom. Usually we talk about acquisitions in the spirits market. And with this expected growth rate, of course, there's so many opportunities, not only for the big brands, but also for the startups. And why are brands making these acquisitions? I guess the biggest part is by acquiring startups, big brands have the possibility to tap into new markets they might not have easily reached on their own, because sometimes they struggle, especially with being super fast and super innovative, and it's easier to just buy a brand that just popped up or even already showed some success over the last months or years. Especially true for the alcohol-free segment, which has been driven by small innovative brands such as Seedlip, for example. I mean, they are one of the pioneers, and in just 8 years, they grew substantially. And I would say there's only few brands in the alcohol-free space you can compare it to. For example, Athletic. They also grew from zero, basically, in 2016 to $800 million of value, company value. Isn't that crazy? The smaller companies often have a loyal customer base, and the products are resonating with the customers easier. And usually you have this sober, curious, healthier, conscious, focused drinks that bring this focus on sustainability of drinking crafted drinks rather than having just industrial products. And of course, it's easier for big brands to acquire stuff like that compared to trying to build own brands under the umbrella of a big industrial company. Talking about innovation, many of the larger companies really struggle in innovating themselves in a very quick and fast way, but they have the capital, they have the money. Sometimes they just lack the agility to innovate quite quickly. And by acquiring startups, it's easier and it's faster, and they can keep up with the industry trends. The good thing about the big brands is they are usually quite good in research and development, especially when it comes to analyzing trends and markets and being on track when it comes to what's trending at the moment and what could be a future market or a future trend over the next 5 years, and starting to invest in this trend or in this perspective. And last but not least, of course, usually the big brands have long-term growth strategies. Big corporations see this as an opportunity to diversify the portfolio. And sometimes when you read that a big brand acquired a minor or maybe even a major stake in a company, instead of buying them completely, sometimes they just want to test if this could work. And I mean, if you acquire, 30% of a brand, you try that out for the next 3 years, and if it works, you buy the rest of it just to get rid of the competition. And if it doesn't work, you can sell it again. And usually this is how it works, especially in the alcohol industry, not only focused on alcohol-free drinks. From the startup perspective, it's a bit different, because usually as a startup, sometimes, or at least at one point, you struggle in scaling your company faster than you want to. And big brands, especially with the money behind, they can really help you scaling a company quickly and getting access to capital distribution channels, of course, network and marketing power of the big corporations. Usually they have their logistics, they have their marketing team, they have their sales team enabled, and this is way easier for startups when they have access to networks like that. The other thing is, while joining a larger corporation brings many advantages, startups often fear losing their authenticity and agility that makes them successful in first place, because right now you belong to a huge machinery of a company, and sometimes processes start slowing down, or they are already slow. This is sometimes the sign for some companies or for some startups that they are becoming too corporate, quote unquote. And this is sometimes a fear they usually carry with them. And most of the time, they try to manage to stay somewhere in between the startup feeling and the big corporate feeling, having access to the faster processes, to the bigger network, and in addition, still staying as innovative and as fast as you want. And from a corporate perspective, of course, you bring in new ideas, you bring in fresh thinking, you bring in surfing on the trends of the industry. And corporates can benefit from those ideas and from this freshness, approaching startups and bringing, especially when it comes to branding and product development, some fresh air into the company. And in addition, sometimes this also means that the big companies have to adjust their corporate culture, because maybe it's too trendy, it's too new. It can be difficult to integrate a very fancy, cool, fast-growing startup in your big company, because everything is like it has been over the last 20 years. Usually a struggle of bigger companies in general. Aligning small startups to company culture and vice versa sometimes could be a challenge. What are the opportunities and challenges for the brands and the market in general as well? When we are talking about opportunities, of course, startups gain access to the global distribution network. They can scale faster, as mentioned. They enable to sell their products in markets they usually don't have access to, or maybe they haven't had yet. In addition, they have the capital, and it's easier for larger companies to offer their customers a wider range of products, meaning usually you have your standard portfolio, maybe focused on alcoholic spirits, and right now you are able to access another peer group, another target group, with offering alcohol-free alternatives. And especially with the state of the industry, that the demand in wine, in spirits is declining, not only for the big industries, but generally the wine market, the wine consumption has been declining over the last 20 years, since 2000, with a small spike during COVID times. And you can answer that declining trend with offering alcohol-free alternatives, new products, innovative products, and not only satisfying your existing peer group, but also adding up on the more health-conscious people, the more sober curious people, and just a new generation. And I mean, Gen Z, according to statistics, at least 30%, depending on the country, they haven't had any alcohol yet, or they're not interested in drinking alcohol at all. I even think that you cannot call this a trend anymore. It's just part of culture. It's just part of our generations, of our future generations, and we have to accept that, and we should lean into it, especially as a business. When it comes to the challenges, especially Germany and the UK are quite mature market when it comes to alcohol-free products, not only when it comes to production, but also when it comes to sales, when it comes to the offers. And you could get to a point where you struggle in with over commercialization or a lack of diversification in the market because there's too much available, too many products on the market, and especially customers struggle in understanding the market, understanding the products, and finding their way or their navigate through this huge amount of products. When big companies take over, there's always a risk of diluting the market, diluting the original brand's message, and just, like taking a juice and just pouring it over. And right now, everything is branded like Diageo. And then, even more, when a small startup uses its identity, customers can struggle in getting the story behind it. And especially in markets like Germany and also the UK, you already see a kind of oversaturation of products. Smaller brands are struggling to maintain their edge as competition increases. Shops offering products are struggling in keeping their whole portfolio, usually focusing on maybe 1/3 of the products in the end. I talked to a shop owner and she told me she started with 300 products and ended up with only 100 because she had to diversify. It was oversaturated. It was tough to tell the story of the alcohol-free drinks to the people. And we're not only talking about spirits, we're also talking about beer and wine and cider and proxies. So this could definitely be a thing. The good thing is, at least at one point, when you're a startup and you are successful or you want to become more successful, you need foreign capital to grow faster. And the companies who are not able to get external money, they usually have to close down because they cannot grow anymore. They cannot satisfy the customers anymore. The scaling is just not possible. So when we look at successful alcohol-free brands, not only talking about spirits, but also wine or beer companies, they usually get investments. And recently we saw Colonne Null in Germany getting money from Dr. Oetker in Germany. Moderato in France recently had a funding round with, I guess it was 3 million euro. So you need fresh capital if you want to grow, if you want to scale your company. Just to sum this up, I think we will see more of those acquisitions in the future because it makes total sense to buy a successful startup and integrate it into the company rather than innovating yourself on your own for the big companies. It makes sense for a startup, probably not to just scale, to just bootstrap your company, but also getting external investors on board. It will not only be Diageo, Constellation, or LVMH. I guess there will also be, let's call it bigger brands, but not the super big billion-dollar companies that will get their stake, their foot into the alcohol-free industry and the alcohol-free market. Where I think the alcohol-free market will head towards is more new drinks and offering a new category of drinks, not only just replacing beer with alcohol-free beer and wine with alcohol-free wine, rather than offering new ready-to-drinks, new cocktails, new products such as, I don't know, apple or grape or pear-based drinks, teas, sparkling teas, because products that have never had any alcohol are more likely to have more complexity, more structure, and more suitable for food pairing because it's just a quality product itself. You don't have a kind of quality product, you remove the alcohol and try to stay close to the original. It's easier to just create something new but that has never had any alcohol, especially when you want to reach a peer group that just doesn't drink, that doesn't like alcohol. So Gen Z, pregnant people, or people who just don't want to have the taste and the feeling of alcohol anymore. 2 to 3 cents on marketing strategies. I think it's a good idea to involve influencers in your marketing strategy, not only as a startup, but also as a big brand. What I have seen over the last 6 to 12 months, especially in the spirits industry, is that more and more people are just copying recipes or just using it for their own success without mentioning the original creator of it. And for me, this is a very, very big part of the industry, saying, I don't know, this person invented the espresso martini and I'm honoring him or her for this, and this is the drink, and I just adjusted it a bit to make it more suitable for my restaurant or for my bar. But those credits, I barely see them in recent years, and I think it's a problem of the industry because on the one hand, I guess only a few bartenders working right now, are still able to tell the origin story of some of these most successful cocktails. Maybe it's easier in the alcohol-free world because the alcohol-free cocktail industry has been here maybe for 10 years or so, and most of the creators are still alive. When we talk about some of the most famous cocktails on the planet, most of them have already died, and it's even tough to know their names or at least mention them, rather than finding people that are able to tell the story how this cocktail was created. And it's a thing of the industry because storytelling is one of the biggest tools when it comes to marketing, when it comes to sales processes. And I think we should honor that. We should educate people in the alcohol and in the non-alcoholic space on the origin, on the story of the drink, of the taste, of the feeling that comes along with it, and just give kind of a special experience when it comes to drinking those fancy stuff. And in addition, I mean, influencers are one of the tools of the present to get more reach, more visibility. Social media is everywhere, and maybe the channels will change. We started with Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Maybe right now it's more Whatnot and Twitch, and it's just about the question where the attention is currently at. And currently, it's maybe more on, I don't know, Facebook Reels and TikTok rather than Instagram. This will change in the future, but finding your influencer for your peer group is one of the key figures, I would say, in the marketing strategy of a big brand and of influencers, of small influencers as well. And the companies I know in the non-alcoholic space that managed to grow faster than other ones were the ones that just sent out samples, made hundreds of cold calls, hundreds of cold emails. This is my product, try it, let me know what you think of it. And maybe if you want to just talk about it on social media, and the reach is crazy. So I would definitely suggest to think about this. And if you know that an influencer or a creator is responsible for the success of a single cocktail, of a brand, or of a product, give him or her the credits because they earn it, actually. And in addition, when it comes to marketing itself, I'm a big fan of omni-channel, multi-channel strategies, especially when you were acquired by a bigger company. You have more access to capital, you have more access to a bigger marketing team, and startups can afford a multi-channel strategy, talking about influencer campaigns, retail, pop-up stores, collaborations, events, I don't know, live sales on Whatnot or so. And just this multi-channel thing offers more opportunities to grow your brand, to get more visibility and become more successful. So to wrap this up, moderation is coming. Many people are still having fun drinking the fun stuff with alcohol. Nevertheless, there is a trend towards moderate drinking. There is a trend towards being more health conscious, more sober curious. But I mean, we still talk about a share of 5 to 10% probably. I think offering specific packaging that is easier to access, and of course you can keep it for maybe some days longer, kegs, bag-in-box, or even cans, not only for the alcohol-free, but also for the alcoholic space, could be an option. It makes total sense to have a portfolio as a big brand of alcoholic and non-alcoholic brands, to be diversified, to offer a wider range of products, to get access to an existing peer group, satisfy their changing needs, and getting access to a new peer group. It's clear that the alcohol-free space, in my opinion, is no longer a niche market. It's getting more and more traction, and it's a vital part of the future, especially of wine and spirits. Whether these acquisitions help or hurt the industry remains to be seen, but one thing is for sure: the non-alcoholic revolution is just getting started, and I think it's a good idea if your company is a part of it. So this is it when it comes to the current state of the alcohol-free market, bigger acquisitions of the big companies, the big players, the story behind. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Let me know what you think about this topic. Send me an email at podcast@pinotpixel.com or just leave a comment on Spotify or YouTube. See you on Saturday with the weekly update. Ciao, ciao.